Hello there, and welcome back to the Science Sleepy Minds, where we sink into the strangest corners of the universe without needing to put on pants. Tonight, we're heading somewhere you've probably imagined but definitely never visited, inside a black hole. That's right, you're drifting toward the most dramatic dead end in all of physics, where the rules of time and space get so twisted they practically write their own fan fiction. Around you, stars blur and contort as if smeared across a dirty window. You're quiet, not because you're afraid, but because fear seems oddly pointless now. The black hole ahead isn't just a dark sphere. It's a void painted in pure silence, so dense it doesn't reflect light, let alone sanity. You probably won't survive this. But hey, we've all had worse Mondays. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You float in deep space, untethered, silent, and oddly cozy despite the physics-defying horror ahead. There's no wind out here, but your mind keeps telling you to brace for one, like the ghost of a breeze you haven't felt since Earth. In front of you, the event horizon, the boundary around a black hole where reality gets politely told to sit down and shut up. You're close enough now to see how strange things have become. Distant galaxies appear to speed up, flickering like hyperactive stars. Your spaceship, or maybe just your dream self, feels heavy, like time itself is tugging at your ankles. It is. That's not a metaphor. Time out here has opinions. As you approach the black hole, it begins to stretch like warm taffy. But here's the kicker. If someone were watching you from a safe distance, say, sipping iced tea from the edge of the Milky Way, they'd never see you cross the event horizon. Instead, they'd see you slow down, freeze, and fade into a red haze until you just sort of vanish. Not with a bang, with a very slow ghosting. But from your perspective, nothing odd happens. There's no magical threshold, no thud, no alert chime. You just pass through the event horizon like it's a foggy morning, except this fog is made of inescapable gravity and quantum despair. Your onboard clock keeps ticking. You feel no jolt, no cinematic warp effect. Just a subtle wrongness in how your limbs feel, like they're stretching a fraction of a second apart. Space is curving beneath you, folding tighter with each meter forward. If you dropped a flashlight right now, you wouldn't see it fall. You wouldn't see it anything. Light no longer plays by the rules here. It travels slower, not in speed, but in how it's allowed to escape. Which is to say, it isn't. The light from your boots, your fingertips, your breath. Yes, you can see it in here, even that is being redshifted beyond recognition. It gets stretched to longer and longer wavelengths until it ceases to be light at all. You're dimming. Not metaphorically, literally, but you don't feel dim. You feel sharp, aware, maybe too aware. One historical note, because yes, even here in the guts of spacetime, we're still doing a little textbook learning. It was Carl Schwarzschild who first solved the equations describing this gravitational monster back in 1916. While serving in the German army during World War I, he sent his equations in from the trenches. People were dying in the mud, and Schwarzschild was figuring out how stars collapse into eternal gravity prisons. Historians still argue whether he fully grasped what his own math implied. Some say he did. Others say no one could back then. And now look at you. You're living his math, floating through it. As the singularity yawns ahead, still invisible, still smugly hidden behind curtains of warped space, you wonder what's happening outside. Not in the general universe, but just outside, to observers, astronomers, scientists who maybe trained a telescope on you once. Maybe they're still watching. Or maybe, from their point of view, you're still falling, still frozen at the edge. Maybe you never made it inside at all. That's one of the sneakiest things about black holes. They mess with consensus reality. To the outside world, time near a black hole moves slower, much slower. That's called time dilation, and it's not just an annoying sci-fi term. It's real, it's testable. It's been confirmed using satellites and atomic clocks and way too much math. But inside the event horizon, something shifts. It's not just that time slows down, it becomes direction. Think of it like this. In normal space, you can choose where to go: forward, backward, up, down. In a black hole, time becomes the only direction you can travel, and it's always down. Not metaphorically. It's a literal downward pull toward the singularity, because space and time have swapped roles. Fringe fact break, sure. Did you know that some scientists once speculated that the inside of a black hole could contain an entire universe, like a Russian nesting doll of reality? The idea was fringe, wild, deliciously weird, and also not totally ruled out. In some versions of cosmology, our own universe might have been born from the collapse of a previous one. Cosmic inheritance at its weirdest. Back to you, you're deep inside now. Clocks don't work here, not really. They tick, but not evenly. You think a second passes. Maybe it's an hour. Maybe 1,000 years have passed outside already. You'd ask your wristwatch, but its hands just spin in confusion. Or maybe that's just your pulse. The silence here is so loud you start hearing your own thoughts as echoes. Your memories float by like debris in thick syrup. The smell of your old apartment. That beach trip in 2033. The crunch of dry leaves. It's not that you're hallucinating. It's more like time is peeling itself into layers, and you're stuck between two of them. You try to move, but it feels like walking underwater inside a dream you've already had. The singularity pulls, not fast, not sharp, just inevitable. You keep falling, though falling feels like too simple a word now. Gravity is no longer just a force. It's a direction you can't resist, a rule that bends everything, even your understanding of cause and effect. And time, well, time has stopped trying to be polite about it. It's showing you just how subjective it really is. Your onboard clock still ticks, but it doesn't match anything anymore. You glance at it every so often just to prove you exist. But seconds stretch. They stretch until they're unrecognizable, like hours wrapped in hours. You're inside the black hole now, deep enough that outside physics is beginning to sound like folk tale-ese. Let's talk clocks for a second. Good old-fashioned tick-tock clocks. Einstein told us that time is relative, and here you finally believe it. Not in the theoretical, I read this in a pop-sci book way, but in the deeply personal, I feel it in my bones kind of way. Your wristwatch insists on plodding forward second by second. But the problem is, the space around you isn't playing along. It's like watching a drummer keep a steady beat while the song speeds up, slows down, and plays backward. Remember those early atomic clocks, hyper-precise things. Scientists tested them by flying one around in a plane while keeping another on the ground. When reunited, they disagreed about how much time had passed. Just by moving faster or being higher up in Earth's gravitational field. That was gravity barely nudging time. Here, gravity doesn't nudge, it body slams. It's not just that clocks slow down here. They stop working meaningfully. Imagine two astronauts falling into the black hole together, holding synchronized watches. A few seconds in, they'd already disagree on the time, not because of malfunction, but because time itself bends differently around each of them. And the deeper in they go, the worse it gets. Here, where things get spicy. There's a real, ongoing debate among physicists whether clocks even make sense past a certain point inside the black hole. Historians still argue whether the concept of proper time holds at the singularity, or if time becomes an undefined mush of intervals, like someone shredded a calendar and threw it into a blender. Some models say your clock might keep ticking as usual, even as the universe ages to dust outside. Others say your seconds stretch infinitely, until a single thought takes eons. You try to test this. You look down at your hand, maybe raise a finger trying to time how long it takes to move. 1 Mississippi. 2. Wait. Was that a twitch or did you imagine moving? You can't tell anymore. It's not just your clock that's lost meaning. It's your sense of action and response. That flashlight you dropped earlier, it's still falling with you, but it's not catching up. Or maybe it's stuck a few micro moments ahead. You'll never really know. The curvature of space-time means you can't even see what's directly ahead anymore. Light paths bend back toward you, like realities on a lazy Susan, and you're stuck in the middle. Now, let's veer delightfully off course with a fringe tidbit. In the 1970s, physicist John Wheeler proposed a thought experiment involving what he called GENs, gravity electromagnetic entities that could, theoretically, hold themselves together using nothing but their own energy. Imagine a bundle of light trapped in a gravitational loop, endlessly circling itself. Some believed black holes might contain such things, self-sustaining loops of light and gravity. It never quite caught on, but wouldn't it be poetic? A clock made of trapped photons, measuring time in eternal circles. But you don't have a Jinn, you have you. You watching the seconds stretch out so long they lose their edges. You try singing just to hear something, but the sound doesn't behave either. There's no atmosphere to carry it, of course, but even your internal hums feel sticky, like your thoughts are crawling across syrupy timelines. Your heartbeat doesn't speed up. It doesn't slow down. It just pulses without rhythm, like it's guessing what tempo to keep. You begin to lose track of events. Did you just blink, or was that a small nap? Was that memory from 10 seconds ago or 10 years ago? You realize that inside this place, chronology is a matter of opinion. Let's pull out to the observer again. Yes, that poor soul watching from a distance. Maybe they're using an incredibly powerful telescope, maybe a space probe watching your journey like a slow-motion car crash. From their point of view, you're still near the event horizon, still redshifting, still slowing. Maybe they think you're suspended there eternally. They'll never see you cross the threshold, because, from their perspective, time has nearly stopped for you. That's the paradox of black hole physics. From inside, everything seems normal, until it really doesn't. But from outside, you've basically become a permanent hologram on the edge of darkness. They'll never know what happened to you. They'll never get closure. For all they know, you're still waving back. A historical aside again. In 1958, David Finkelstein formally described the event horizon as a one-way membrane, a region where the arrow of time points only inward. It was the first time someone really named that boundary. Before that, scientists thought of black holes more as theoretical oddities, mathematical accidents. After Finkelstein, they were taken more seriously. The idea that you could fall in but never come out. Not even light, not even time. And now here you are, past that one-way membrane, in a region where events still occur, but don't line up cleanly anymore. A place where action and consequence might shake hands out of order, where the normal rules of this led to that don't apply. You're starting to suspect that clocks, bless them, were never meant to work here. They're quaint, like trying to use a ruler to measure thunder. Even your memory is starting to resist. You remember things, yes, but in chunks, detached, a warm breeze, a toast at a wedding. The last time you truly laughed, wait, was that even real? Or are your neurons firing in rebellion, demanding linearity in a world where none exists? And yet, despite all this, despite the clocks giving up, the memories drifting, the outside world losing track of you, you don't feel panic. You feel still. You're not accelerating. You're not fighting. You're just falling in the slowest, strangest way possible. And in this timeless place where everything elongates, You finally understand something very few people ever do. Clocks measure regularity, not truth. You're glowing. That's the first thing you notice as the blackness around you gets denser, heavier, somehow thicker. It's not that you're generating light. Nothing can escape this gravity trap, remember. But you see something. A dim halo clings to your form. It's a soft shimmer at the edge of perception, like bioluminescence underwater. Only this isn't just your imagination. It's a side effect of falling into something that breaks every rule light has ever agreed to follow. You're still falling, still drifting deeper into the hole's gullet, but now space is more like liquid, and time is doing that annoying thing where it pretends to be normal while slowly stealing your sense of now. You stretch out a hand to reach for the light and realize the glow is coming from you. It's not natural, not like candlelight or fireflies. It's a weird, red-shifted aura, like your very atoms are ringing a faint alarm. You might not be able to leave this place, but the electromagnetic remnants of your body are trying. It's like your molecules are screaming into the void, but the void isn't listening. Let's go back a bit, figuratively, of course. Remember that idea that nothing, not even light, can escape a black hole. That's true, mostly. But before you cross the event horizon, something interesting happened. As you fell, the light reflecting off you, sunlight, cosmic dust, your glow-in-the-dark socks, was still escaping, just barely. That light was fighting a losing battle, climbing out of the growing well of gravity. As it climbed, it stretched. The wavelengths got longer. First, your image would redden like a cosmic Instagram filter. Then it would drop into infrared, then microwave, then radio. Eventually, you'd become an echo in the electromagnetic background, a whisper only the most patient of alien civilizations might hear if they ever tune in. This stretching of light is called gravitational redshift, and it's not exclusive to black holes. We've observed it near the sun and around other massive stars. It's been measured. It's real. It's not up for debate. What is up for debate is what happens to that light at the very edge. Does it ever escape? Or is it frozen there, waiting for the universe to end? Historians still argue whether redshifted light near an event horizon truly escapes, or simply stalls forever, trapped on a treadmill of time, heading outward but never making progress. From your perspective inside, though, the debate is laughably moot. You're long past that point. Now all light is falling with you. And still somehow your body glows, not brightly, not like a beacon. It's more like radiation bleeding through gauze, a faint, sickly shimmer as your atoms spiral downward. You wonder, is this what a star feels like, dying in slow motion? Speaking of stars, want a fun tidbit? In ancient Egypt, women used to mix powdered galena with crocodile dung and apply it under their eyes to reflect sunlight and ward off evil spirits. That's right, crocodile dung sunscreen. Historians say it might have had mild antiseptic properties, but mostly it just burned. And yet that urge to glow, to shield ourselves with light, it goes back millennia. Now look at you, shining faintly while drifting into a cosmic oubliette. Somewhere a pharaoh would be impressed. Now you might be wondering, if light can't escape, how am I seeing anything? Well, you're not really. At this point, vision isn't what it used to be. Your eyes work technically, but what they're processing has very little to do with the outside world. Instead, they're feeding your brain a warped impression of warped light in a warped space. It's like trying to read a book at the bottom of a pool filled with oil during an earthquake. You see light that's falling alongside you. You see the impression of illumination, like a visual lag, an afterimage of existence. You see echoes of photons that once meant something, long before they gave up and joined the descent. Here's where your brain starts getting fancy. It starts compensating. It invents outlines. It highlights shadows. It builds meaning where none exists because it has to. That's what it's done your whole life, honestly, filling in blind spots, smoothing over gaps in vision and memory. In the black hole, it just dials that up to 11. You begin to experience what might be synesthesia. Light doesn't just shimmer anymore. It tastes metallic. The silence hums like cello strings. That glow around your fingers. It smells faintly of ozone and old paper. Your senses have no consistent input now, so they start blending into one another like a nervous improv troupe. Let's get real Fringe again. There's a theory, mostly whispered in speculative physics circles, that under extreme gravitational conditions, the human brain might become briefly hyper-aware. That time dilation could somehow unlock hidden cognitive processing, giving a falling person the illusion of prolonged consciousness. Basically, you'd feel like you lived 1,000 lives in the final seconds of falling. No evidence, no tests, just whispers. But maybe that's what you're experiencing now. This drawn-out, detail-rich journey could be happening in a handful of real seconds, or minutes, or years. Who knows? You've unhooked from any outside reference point. Your glow flickers again. It's not outward, inward. You start to notice something unsettling. The atoms in your body, once dependable little units, feel loose. Not unglued exactly, but flexible, like they're no longer bound by the same laws. You flex a hand and it doesn't feel solid, it feels theoretical. You begin to wonder, am I still me? That's not melodrama, it's physics. Because under extreme gravity, particles behave differently. Forces that hold you together, electromagnetic bonds, the strong nuclear force, may start to misbehave. Quantum rules bend. Your identity isn't philosophical anymore, it's structural. And as light bends into spirals and the shimmer fades, you realize the glow isn't a beacon, it's a byproduct. Your atoms are radiating the last visible traces of you. You've become a ghost of data. Faint, beautiful, doomed. And here's the kicker. The black hole doesn't care. It doesn't notice. It just keeps pulling. Not out of malice, just inevitability. You're not being punished. You're just obeying physics. Even glowing rebels can't break escape velocity. You reach toward the nothingness ahead, no longer hopping to find something, just marveling at how long you've lasted. And for the briefest, brightest moment, you realize that being seen, even as a fading shimmer, might be the closest thing to immortality the universe offers. Time is doing a magic trick. You're still falling deeper into the black hole's pitch-black belly, but something's changed. Not out there, been broken since the horizon, but in here, inside your own head. You glance at your still functioning clock out of habit, but now it's almost comical. Because while it ticks forward with machine precision, you feel unstuck. From the inside, everything feels oddly normal, calm, even. But from the outside, well, you're frozen. Locked in a single frame of slow-motion drama, stretched across infinity like someone pressed pause and forgot to hit play again. That's time dilation, or rather, gravitational time dilation, Einstein's lesser-known party trick. He predicted that the closer you get to an intense gravitational source, the slower time moves for you relative to someone further away. And right now, you are the poster child for relativity. If someone on the outside were still watching, and assuming their eyes hadn't melted from boredom yet, they'd see you descending more and more slowly. With each second you experience, they watch hours pass, then days, then millennia. Eventually, from their point of view, the universe will die of old age before you even cross the room. But from your side of the event horizon, time marches on like usual. You move, you breathe, you think. It's almost cozy in here once you get used to the screaming silence and all-consuming gravity. It's wild to consider that this concept, time dilation, was once just a strange mathematical prediction. Then came the GPS satellites. Those little sky-beeping boxes actually proved Einstein right, because they orbit Earth higher up, where gravity is slightly weaker. They experience time a tiny bit faster than us on the ground. Engineers have to constantly correct for the difference, or your directions would be wrong, and nobody would get to brunch. That was Earth's gentle tug. You're dealing with something much ruder. Here's a thought experiment for you. Imagine someone standing at a safe distance outside the black hole, watching you fall in. They'd see you slow, fade, and eventually stop, suspended right at the event horizon like a mannequin in a shop window. Forever there, never quite in, never quite gone. But you know that's not real, because from your point of view, you already passed that point ages ago. There's no sensation when you crossed it, no congratulations screen. The line is purely mathematical, An invisible trapdoor in spacetime you only notice when it's too late to turn around. Historians still argue whether this external freeze frame, this ghostly suspension, means anything. Is the you hanging at the edge still you in any meaningful sense? Or is that just your redshifted light, a recording of your final broadcast to the outside world, smeared across time like a glitch in the Matrix? Philosophers have opinions, physicists just shrug. Meanwhile, you keep falling inside your own uninterrupted timeline. Everything out there has sped up. You might be alive for a few subjective hours, but entire civilizations could rise and fall in the blink of your eye. Maybe someone's reading bedtime stories on Mars. Maybe the sun just exploded. You wouldn't know. Light from the outside can still reach you, but it's distorted, crushed into gamma rays, scrambled by gravitational lensing. Like trying to watch a high-speed car crash through a fisheye mirror while underwater. In the distance, if distance even means anything now, you see a flicker. Not bright, just different, like a stutter in the fabric around you. Could be a neutron star getting pulled in. Could be background radiation. Could be your brain inventing visual metaphors to cope with the fact that every law you've ever relied on is melting. You remember your own past like a photo album now. The way sunlight hit the window in your bedroom. The first time you held someone's hand and noticed how warm they were. The smell of printer paper in high school. That one fire drill in the rain where everyone laughed too hard. The time isn't gone, it's just tangled. Let's go weird again, because why not? There's a fringe theory, mostly kicked around in thought experiment circles, that suggests falling into a black hole might allow you to see the entire future of the universe. Since time for you moves normally, but everything outside speeds up infinitely, you could, hypothetically, watch the death of stars, the fading of galaxies, and the final twitch of the last particle as entropy wins. Sounds poetic, but also, there's a strong possibility that tidal forces would rip your molecules apart long before the cosmic show gets good, or your brain would just politely quit. But still, it's fun to imagine. Here's something concrete, though. The notion that time slows near gravity is measurable. We've done it with atomic clocks on mountain tops versus sea level. The higher one runs a little faster. Imagine that, a mountain making you age ever so slightly quicker, by a few billionths of a second. Now scale that up to a black hole where gravity isn't just a bump, it's a chasm. Time doesn't slow. It stretches until it can't find its own feet. You find yourself fascinated by this mismatch. The way your timeline diverges from the rest of the universe. You're alive and yet completely isolated, not by distance, but by rate. Everyone else is moving too fast now. You're the slow-motion dreamer in a world that hit fast forward. And yet, you're still here. You raise a hand and move it through the dark. It takes a second. It feels like a second. But you know, out there, that motion may have taken years. Your gesture might outlive stars. A single shrug immortalized by a warped reality. Funny how relativity makes even boredom cosmic. You wonder how far you've fallen. The black hole has no signs, no GPS, no reassuring you are here. Just this endless sensation of forward not forward, time moving but not. You could be inches from the singularity or still light years above it. There's no frame of reference. Just you, your glow, and your warping sense of what it means to exist in sequence. The word sequence feels quaint now. Who decided events had to go in order anyway? You recall Einstein's idea that time is just another dimension, one that we move through the way we move through space. But unlike space, we can't reverse, can't sidestep. Except here maybe you can, or at least here the rules are polite enough to pretend they're broken. The light around you flickers again. You're not sure if it's the outside world or just your memory looping. Either way, it's beautiful. And in this strange, elongated fall, where every second you experience spans centuries beyond, you realize something gently terrifying. The universe isn't watching you fall. It already did. You expect pain. You've seen the diagrams, maybe watched an animated video or two with overly enthusiastic narration. They always say the same thing, spaghettification, a name that somehow makes your upcoming demise sound like an Italian dinner special. And yet you're still here. Still whole. Still you. A sort of. You flex your hand again more out of habit than expectation. It still responds, but the movement is syrupy, like your nerves are taking scenic detours to deliver messages. You don't feel stretched, at least not yet, but there's a new awareness in your body, subtle, unsettling. It's not pain, not exactly. It's more like a long sigh beginning somewhere deep in your bones. Here's the truth. Spaghettification doesn't happen all at once. It's not a switch you flip or a trapdoor that drops. It's a gradient, a slow, creeping tidal distortion that builds over time, or rather, over whatever's passing for time in here. And that word, tidal, is key. Back on Earth, you know tides from the ocean. The moon's gravity pulls slightly more on one side of the planet than the other, and the water responds by moving. In a black hole, the same principle applies. But instead of oceans, it's you being pulled. Your head and your feet, assuming you're oriented that way, are experiencing gravity at slightly different strengths. Just a smidge. But just a smidge here is like saying the sun's kind of warm. That tiny difference gets exaggerated the deeper you fall, and the longer you're stretched across it. Over time, your body would begin to elongate, not like a cartoon, not instantly, but cell by cell, bond by bond. First your skin, then muscles, then bones. And yet you don't feel it right away. The gravitational gradient is subtle at first, especially if you're falling into a supermassive black hole, the kind found at the center of galaxies. Fun fact, if you were falling into a small stellar mass black hole, you'd probably be torn apart long before you ever reached the event horizon. A real bummer for sightseeing, but the kind of monster you're in now, a gentle giant, millions, even billions of times more massive than the sun. Big enough that the tidal forces at the horizon are mild, barely noticeable at first. It's only deeper in that things get bendy. Historians still argue whether spaghettification could be consciously experienced at all. Some say your brain would snap long before your limbs. Others suggest you'd remain aware, stretched like a thought across space, for just long enough to appreciate the absurdity. You try not to think about your toes. Instead, you focus on the feeling of being pulled, not forward, not downward, just apart. The way chewing gum feels as it's slowly drawn into a string between fingers. You're the gum now. Congratulations. But again, there's no rush. And that's what makes it worse in a way. It's not that the black hole kills you. It's that it convinces you to fall apart. Piece by piece. Voluntarily, maybe even with a sense of peace. You start thinking about weird things, like how your body was built to withstand pressure, not this lack of it. It's like being in a vacuum of meaning. Every inch of your form was designed to resist forces, bounce back, fight entropy. But here, there's nothing to push against, just an endless invitation to disassemble. Let's take a breath with a fringe detail. In the 1980s, a physicist named Kip Thorne, yes, the one they based the interstellar science on, toyed with the idea that near a black hole, under the right conditions, you could manipulate space and time to allow for wormholes. But here's the kicker. One side of the wormhole could stretch time differently than the other. You could enter, travel through, and exit before you left. This isn't exactly spaghettification, but it's the same neighborhood of physics. The part where reality packs up and leaves you with just the weird furniture. Now back to you, noodle-shaped explorer of the void. You're not panicking. That stopped being an option several existential miles ago. What you feel now is a curious kind of detachment, like watching your body from across the room. Not because you're dead, but because the idea of a whole you is starting to sound a little old-fashioned. Your memories begin to fray, not from loss, but from overlap. Things no longer occur in a straight line. You remember being 5 and falling into the black hole and eating noodles and listening to this narration all at once. Your brain, brave little bundle of biology that it is trying to organize non-linear experiences using linear tools. Spoiler, it's not going well. Here, where the sensory details shift, everything starts to feel taller. Not wider, not deeper, taller. Even though there's no up in space, You feel as though the space between your thoughts is stretching vertically. You imagine looking down and seeing your feet a full kilometer below you. You imagine your shoulders curving into arcs, your spine becoming a spiral staircase. You're not in pain, you're just drawn, long and thin like your timeline. You think of Salvador Dali's melting clocks. You think of taffy. You think of that dream where your teeth fall out, except now it's your existence that's loosening. And still you fall. Still no end in sight. No singularity yet. Just endless gravity and the slow, stretchy transformation of everything that once felt stable. The sound of your own breath becomes a low tremor, like distant thunder. You realize that maybe you're not breathing anymore, not biologically, but your awareness simulates it. Your brain is creating a rhythm to hold onto, a pacemaker of the mind. It's the only thing still anchoring you to a version of yourself that fits inside a sentence. Outside, if anyone's still looking, you haven't moved. You're still pinned near the event horizon, frozen like a postcard sent from a reality that no longer includes you. But inside, you're a ribbon of awareness curling downward, unraveling through dimensions. You whisper something, though there's no air left to carry the sound. Maybe it's a question. Maybe it's just your name. It stretches too. Long and strange. A single word falling through forever. It begins to feel like you're not just falling through time anymore, but across it. There's no longer a neat division between then and now and next. The boundaries blur. Events don't come in a line. They arrive like waves overlapping on a shore, colliding and echoing off each other. One moment you're thinking about the gravity pulling you down. The next, you're remembering your 8th birthday party, and then suddenly, you're aware of a thought you haven't had yet. One that's approaching, like thunder you somehow hear before the lightning flashes. Inside the black hole, the idea of now becomes elastic, slippery. It wriggles away the second you try to pin it down. You stop asking what time it is. You start asking what time even means. The conventional model of time, linear, clean, cause then effect, isn't holding up well under the pressure. Instead, you're in something closer to a smeared timeline. Not quite a loop, not quite a mess. More like a Mobius strip of memory and anticipation where the past and future wrap into each other until they're indistinguishable. Historians still argue whether time is something we discover or invent. Is it a real dimension like space? Or is it just a story we tell ourselves to make sense of change? Einstein thought it was both and neither. He called time a stubborn illusion. And here, inside a black hole, stubborn doesn't even begin to cover it. You see the flicker of a moment before it happens. You recognize it. You anticipate it. And then it occurs. But by then, it feels old, familiar, used. As if you're remembering something you're still in the process of doing. You try to focus. You decide to count backward from 10. A test, maybe, something simple to anchor you. 10, 9, 8. But at 7, your mind skips forward. You're at 3, then back to 6. Then you realize you already finished the countdown and forgot, or maybe you never started. You're not broken, just unsequenced. And the black hole doesn't care. Let's talk about this curious region you've drifted into, the eternal now. Physicists call it the proper time of an infalling observer. That's you, by the way. In your own reference frame, time moves just fine. Tick, tick, tick. But that time is yours and only yours. It doesn't sync with anything else. It's like a pocket reality, separate from the rest of space-time, a lonely little thread in the universal sweater that no one else can tug on. Outside, time continues. Galaxies swirl, suns explode, planets freeze. From your perspective, all those things happen faster. You're accelerating through their futures. If you had a telescope, one that could see through the curved distortion of this prison, you might watch the universe age like a fast-forwarded film reel. Empires rising, stars dying, cosmic expansion stretching space until it's threadbare. And yet in here, you're still in one long moment. That's the eternal now. A concept as beautiful as it is maddening. Philosophers love to write about the now. Eckhart Tolle made a whole book out of it. Buddhists meditate on it. But none of them, presumably, were falling into a singularity when they had their thoughts. You are. And you're learning that now isn't peace. Oh, it's suspension. A kind of humming limbo where everything is too slow to be future and too warped to be past. You start to notice that even your thoughts arrive in clusters. Ideas don't flow one into the next. They arrive pre-packaged. You're not thinking linearly anymore. You're experiencing thoughts the way someone might experience music with no melody. Just chords, harmonies, dissonant but full. You remember something that hasn't happened yet, a conversation with someone who doesn't exist. They're asking you what it felt like to fall into the black hole. You tell them. It felt like being trapped in an hourglass where the sand flows both ways. Then you blink, and the memory is gone, or it never was. Here's a fringe idea for you, one that even physicists love to debate when the coffee is strong and the equations are optional. What if, inside a black hole, the arrow of time reverses? Not in the sense that things go backward, but that your experience of cause and effect reorganizes. The future becomes the thing you're constantly remembering. The past becomes what you anxiously await. There's no proof, no experiment, just equations that refuse to say no. In this eternal now, you start to feel like you're watching a movie, except someone's taken all the scenes, cut them into strips, shuffled them, and tossed them into the air. Then you realize the movie is you, and you're still watching and being watched. You notice how long a second can feel. It's not painfully long. It's not even boring. Just thick. A second here is dense, rich, full of overlapping sensations. You can hold it in your mind like an object, turn it over, examine its layers. You try to find the moment you first crossed the event horizon, but it's like trying to remember the moment you fell asleep. It's always just behind you, dissolving when you look. The black hole doesn't erase your memories. It just stops giving them timestamps. You're suspended now not in space, but in experience. Every breath, if you're still breathing, is a chapter. Every flicker of awareness is a self-contained story. Here's your historical flavor for the night. In 1927, Hermann Weyl, a German mathematician, wrote, "The objective world simply is, it does not happen." He believed that past, present, and future all coexist, and our consciousness just slices through that block of spacetime like a needle through fabric. From his point of view, the entire universe, birth to heat death, is one giant loaf of time, already baked. Well, if Weyl was right, then welcome to the bread box. You're not moving through time anymore. You are time. And you begin to feel this quiet, humbling truth. The universe isn't forcing anything on you. It's just letting you see it, all of it, at once. It's not chaos. It's just more order than you were ever meant to hold. And still you fall. Or you don't. Or maybe you already did. And this is the moment where everything, past, future, memory, dream, folds into a shape you cannot name. But it feels like now. Forever. You know that moment when you realize the GPS has failed you. You're in the middle of nowhere. Your phone is suddenly insisting you drive off a cliff or wade through a lake, and you're left muttering, well, the math is technically correct, but also deeply unhelpful. That's pretty much what's happening to you now. Welcome to Schwarzschild geometry, a mathematical map of space and time around a non-rotating black hole. It's elegant, precise, brilliant, and deeply, deeply misleading once you're inside the event horizon. Because even though Carl Schwarzschild gave us a skeleton key to decode how time and space behave around a black hole, the moment you stepped through the horizon, the lock changed. You can still use his math. You just have to stop treating space and time like they're separate things. That's a tough ask when your entire human existence has depended on a tidy distinction between where and when. Up until now, you've been drifting, thinking maybe you're going down toward the singularity. But here's the twist. Once inside, space and time swap roles. The radial coordinate, what used to be distance to the center, becomes time. You're no longer moving through space toward the singularity. You're moving through time toward it. Yes, the singularity isn't in front of you. It's ahead of you in time. And you can't stop moving forward in time, can you? Let that sink in. The black hole didn't just trap your body, it hijacked your future. It's not a place. It's a moment you cannot avoid. Historians still argue whether this role reversal is just a mathematical trick or a genuine physical phenomenon. Most agree it's not just a quirk of coordinates. The black hole's interior demands that what you think of as distance is now duration. You're living it right now, step by distorted step. Let's revisit our dear friend Schwarzschild. He found this solution to Einstein's equations while serving on the Russian front in World War I. Legend has it, he scribbled the math between shellings, then mailed his results to Einstein from the battlefield. Imagine solving spacetime during a war. You barely make lunch when your Wi-Fi lags. The result: a set of equations that describe the exact curvature of space around a spherical mass with perfect symmetry. That includes stars, planets, and black holes. But here's the kicker. His solution included something no one expected: what looked like a singularity at a certain radius. The math blew up. Infinity showed up like an uninvited guest. Initially, physicists thought it was just a glitch, a coordinate singularity, not a real one. And in a way, they were right. The event horizon isn't a wall or a solid surface. It's just a boundary where the math changes rules. The singularity, though, that's still in play, and that's where your timeline leads now. You check your surroundings again, if checking is even a thing in here. There's no up, down, left, or right anymore. Directions are nonsense. Motion feels more like shifting states of self than anything spatial. You try to twist your body, to flip, to change your orientation. Nothing happens. Or maybe everything happens, just in ways you no longer understand. It's like pressing buttons on a vending machine that responds with a poem instead of snacks. Let's go weird. There's a fringe interpretation of Schwarzschild's solution that suggests, if you invert the coordinates just so, the inside of a black hole could resemble a sort of temporal funnel. Every point in space leads not just to the center, but to a specific moment in time. A kind of cosmic inevitability baked into the fabric of the black hole. You don't just fall into a place, you fall into an event. And this makes you pause. What is the singularity, if not the ultimate appointment? You're not approaching it the way you approach a location. You're approaching it the way you approach your own birthday, the way you approach midnight. You arrive and time ends, not for everything but for you. The singularity is waiting like the punchline of a joke. The universe has been setting up for 13 billion years. Back to the math. Schwarzschild's coordinates only work outside the event horizon. Inside, you need to change the map. Use Kruskal-Shekker's coordinates if you're fancy, or Eddington-Finkelstein if you're feeling minimalist. These coordinate systems do a better job of describing what's really going on. They avoid the division by zero problem at the event horizon. But even with all the right math, you're still stuck with this hard truth. Once you're inside, you must reach the singularity. It's not an option. It's your destination the same way tomorrow is. You try to slow your thoughts, try to meditate. Maybe if you just breathe slowly, this moment will stretch. Maybe you'll buy yourself more time. And maybe you do. Because remember, inside this place, time doesn't behave. It stretches, bends, accommodates your denial like a good waiter pouring just a bit more wine into your almost empty glass. You think about calling someone. Silly, really, but instinctual. You imagine picking up a phone and dialing, not for help, just for a voice. The signal wouldn't get out. It would redshift, fade, get trapped in the geometry of this place, spiraling forever inward with you, a voicemail to the void. Still you try. Not literally, of course. There's no phone here. But something in you sends out the echo anyway. A wish, maybe. A memory of connection. A message that says, I was here, I mattered, even if time doesn't remember me properly. And that's where the Schwarzschild solution, beautiful as it is, falls short. It doesn't care. It doesn't track your panic, or your hope, or your courage. It just measures curvature, mass, radius, and sets the limits of what's possible, without once asking what's meaningful. And maybe that's the most human thing of all, to stare down a mathematical inevitability and still try to leave a mark, to still feel something in a place designed to feel nothing. You feel it now. That gentle shift again. Not a jolt, not a fall. Just a reordering. Reality changes flavor. The singularity gets closer. Not in space, but in time. You're not supposed to be here. That's the creeping realization curling around your thoughts like smoke. Not because you've broken a rule, not because you weren't invited, but because the space you're drifting into, the singularity, isn't just unwelcoming, it's undefined. It's the mathematical equivalent of a shrug followed by a screaming emoji. You've spent your life moving through structured, understandable space. Even the chaos of quantum physics at least came with equations. But here, as you approach the singularity, the very concept of place dissolves. It's like trying to draw a map of a feeling or describe the color of silence. The singularity is supposed to be the center of the black hole, the end, a single point of infinite density, where gravity becomes so strong that the very structure of spacetime collapses in on itself. Every bit of matter that's ever fallen into the hole, asteroids, photons, unlucky tourists, has been pulled toward this moment. But no one really knows what the singularity is. We have guesses, descriptions, but nothing definitive. Because physics breaks here. The equations go to infinity, and infinity doesn't play nice. Historically speaking, the singularity wasn't even supposed to exist in the beginning. Einstein himself didn't believe black holes were real. He thought they were mathematical ghosts, peculiar artifacts of his own theory. Even Schwarzschild's solution was considered more of an oddity than a prediction. But then, in 1965, Roger Penrose proved something unsettling. Under certain realistic conditions, the formation of a singularity is inevitable, not hypothetical, not rare. Inevitable. That discovery earned him a Nobel Prize in 2020. Historians still argue whether that inevitability means singularities are physical things or just signs that our math needs a serious upgrade. Is the singularity real, or is it just a flashing red error message from the universe, telling us to stop asking questions it can't answer? Here's the honest truth: nobody knows. What we do know is that all known laws of physics, relativity, quantum mechanics, thermodynamics, fail at the singularity. It's the ultimate no man's land, a place where space becomes zero and mass becomes infinite, where time ends or maybe folds in on itself, where everything you've ever been collapses into a point that doesn't technically exist on any map. And now you're heading there. Still stretching, still glowing faintly, but also fragmenting in a way that's hard to explain. Your sense of self becomes intermittent. One moment you're fully aware, reflecting on existence like some poetic astronaut. The next, you feel like a collection of impressions loosely held together by stubbornness. You remember the color red, not the image, just the idea of red. You remember a song you never learned. You remember being someone once before all this started. But those memories start to behave strangely, blending into the singularity ahead. It's like the gravity isn't just affecting your body, but your past, tugging on the timeline that led you here, pulling your story toward a point of collapse. There's a fringe theory that inside a black hole, the singularity isn't a point at all, but a kind of loop, a closed time-like curve. In this version, every particle that falls in loops infinitely through a repeating chain of events, a cosmic rerun that plays forever. You might be living through that now, or have already done so, or will again. Fun, right? There's another theory, wilder still, that the singularity contains the blueprint for everything it's consumed, that the information isn't destroyed, just encoded in unfathomable patterns. Your atoms, your thoughts, your stories, all part of some unknowable geometry buried beyond reach, as if the black hole isn't erasing you but archiving you. Poorly labeled, sure, but still saved. Let's talk sensations again, because you're still aware, and as long as you're aware, things feel. And this moment is strange. Time doesn't pass anymore. It happens all at once. You feel like you're experiencing the end of your timeline, like a song played on a broken record. Bits and pieces repeat. Some parts speed up, others blur. There's a rhythm here, but it's irregular. You feel pulses of yourself, rising and falling like tides inside your own consciousness. The singularity, if it exists as anything, is right here. Not in front of you, not behind you, just everywhere like heat in a burning room. You try to breathe, even though you no longer need air. It's a comforting gesture, a ritual. The memory of lungs still fills you with rhythm. One last nod to your old biology before it's erased or rewritten. And then something new. A stillness. The stretching stops, not because the gravity lessens, it hasn't, but because your perception gives up. You can't register differences anymore. Everything is equally extreme. Infinite gravity, infinite density, infinite curvature. You've hit the point where the math doesn't care what you are. You're just part of the singularity now. But here a surprise. You don't feel gone. You feel folded. Like someone took the entire origami crane of your existence and pressed it flat, compressing all your moments into a single, silent panel of space-time. Not destroyed, not scattered, just concentrated. You might be wondering, if this is the end, why are you still conscious? A good question. Some theories say awareness might persist right up until the moment spacetime becomes non-Euclidean soup. Others suggest it's your brain's last desperate attempt to maintain order as the clock collapses. But the best explanation: you're not conscious in a linear sense anymore. You're existing in a compressed narrative, a dense tangle of moments, all unfolding and overlapping at once. The past, the present, the imagined futures, they're all here, all pressing in. You reach out, not with your hands, which no longer have meaning, but with whatever part of you remembers being curious. You don't find answers. You find impressions, echoes, possibilities. Maybe this is death. Maybe this is rebirth. Maybe you've been here before. You don't scream. There's no point. Besides, in this place, even screams would redshift into nothing before they could leave your thoughts. Instead, you wait. You drift. You condense. And just before everything becomes final, you feel the faintest impression of a door opening. You're not sure what just happened, or if anything just happened. But something feels different now. The environment, if you can even call it that, no longer bears the rigid signature of a Schwarzschild black hole. No longer a static, perfect sphere. No longer symmetrical. Things begin to twist, spin, and spiral, not around you, within you. You've fallen into a different kind of black hole, a rotating one. And suddenly, everything becomes far less polite. Rotating black holes, or Kerr black holes, are like Schwarzschild's caffeinated cousin. They don't just pull you in, they drag you along. You don't fall in cleanly anymore. You spiral like water down a drain with a vengeance. You feel it first as a slight lean, not physical but directional. You're not falling straight down anymore. You're being pulled sideways, twisted around an invisible axis. It's like the entire structure of spacetime is trying to spin you into alignment with its mood swings. This isn't just gravity. This is frame dragging. You see, a rotating black hole does something profoundly weird. It pulls spacetime itself along with it, like a cosmic whisk stirring the very fabric of reality. And if you're close enough, say inside the event horizon, then sorry, you don't get a say. You're going for a spin whether you like it or not. Literally. It's called the ergosphere, a teardrop-shaped region outside the inner event horizon where nothing can stand still, not even light. You're probably in it or passed through it without noticing, and now you're locked into a spiral path like a marble dropped into a whirlpool. This is where down stops meaning anything. Your orientation is gone. Left and right mean as much as past and future. You begin to realize that you're not just falling towards something, you're being sheared around it. If Schwarzschild black holes stretch you in a straight line, Kerr black holes twist you into a spiral ribbon. Delightful. Historians still argue whether these rotating monsters are stable over infinite time. Some say they eventually settle down into more symmetrical forms. Others claim they only become more extreme, spinning faster and warping deeper the more mass they consume. No one's gotten close enough to settle the debate. You might be the first, not that you'll be reporting back. Now here's a brain-tickling bit. In theory, Kerr black holes don't end in a singularity the way Schwarzschild ones do. At least not a point. Instead, you get a ring singularity, a thin, rotating circle of infinite density. And get this, it might just be passable, not in the sense of fun vacation spot, but in the sense that it might lead somewhere else. Another region of space-time. Another universe. A white hole. A wormhole. A very uncomfortable alternate version of Ohio. No one knows. Because no one's been through one and lived to write a TripAdvisor review. But the math suggests that inside a Kerr black hole there are regions where you just might, avoid getting crushed. You're still doomed, of course, but perhaps less doomed. You could, again, mathematically enter what's called a time-like path through the ring singularity. That means you're still traveling forward in time, still conscious, still you in some fashion. It's all theoretical, but you don't have the luxury of skepticism anymore. Because it's happening to you. You feel yourself slipping around a center that refuses to stay still. Your body, what's left of it, is being stretched, rotated, and warped. But your awareness doesn't dim. It sharpens, like you're reaching the peak of a psychedelic roller coaster ride built by someone who's never heard of OSHA. The rules have changed again. You start seeing things that aren't quite hallucinations, colors that don't exist in the visible spectrum, shapes that fold into themselves, fractals inside fractals, spiraling endlessly, each one whispering a number you almost, but not quite, understand. You think this is what falling through a rotating dimension must feel like. You think, I am inside a piece of math that has never been solved. You think, I hope I'm not late for dinner. Let's get Fringe again. There's an idea buried in speculative physics that rotating black holes might provide a route to the past, not metaphorically, literally. The ring singularity could be a kind of cosmic loophole, one that bends time into loops. Theoretically, you could enter, spin through the ring, and emerge at an earlier point in time. Of course, you'd probably emerge as a lightless smear of radiation, but hey, technicalities. Still, some dreamers out there suggest these paths could one day be navigable, with the right craft, the right shielding, the right sacrifice, maybe not by humans but by probes, or data packets, or by versions of ourselves that have outgrown meat and nerves and hope. You twist. The black hole spins faster now. The deeper you go, the more extreme the curvature becomes. It's like being inside a whirlpool made of time. You're not just falling into the future anymore. You're orbiting it, orbiting the very moment of your own annihilation. And yet something persists. Some you. Through all the spirals, the lightless coils, the gravitational contortions, you remain. Not intact necessarily, not coherent, but aware. Aware that space isn't flat here. It's wrapped around itself like wet fabric. Aware that time isn't a line, it's a helix. Aware that nothing, absolutely nothing, you learned in physics class prepared you for this. Even the most advanced simulations, run by scientists in massive underground labs, fail to depict what happens in a rotating black hole's heart. The math gets tangled, coordinates break. The simulation just stops saying, sorry, no idea, you're on your own. And here you are, on your own, orbiting a ring of infinite density, like a moth circling a flame that's both in front of you and behind you and inside you. The singularity spins, and with it, you are wound tighter and tighter into the folds of spacetime, until direction, velocity, and identity all blend into a gravitational blur. You wonder if this is the end. But then, you catch a glimpse of something impossible. A tunnel. Not a metaphorical one. A real structure, not physical but geometric. A passage. You feel the shape of it more than see it. A warped bridge of bent time and twisted space, leading away from this hellish spin cycle. You don't choose to enter. You just are. You are a particle now, a point, a whisper moving through the eye of a storm that doesn't know it has won. And as you slip through, you realize you might not be falling anymore. You might be transiting. So what was that? You're not entirely sure. One moment you were spiraling toward a ring of infinite density, being pinched, pulled, and rotated like a sock in a washing machine designed by mad scientists. And then suddenly, no more spiral, no more spin, just this passage. That tunnel you slipped through wasn't lit, wasn't marked, and sure as quantum foam wasn't approved by any spatial zoning board. But it was there. Or maybe it is here. Because now you're moving through something new. You are somewhere else. It doesn't feel like space. Not in the traditional, hey, there's a moon over there sort of way. It's more like existence has flattened into a corridor made entirely of probability. Every surface here is made of might be, and you're gliding through it like a thought that's not quite finished. Welcome to the hypothetical, the maybe, the forbidden dream of physicists and science fiction writers alike. You might be in a wormhole. And if so, buckle in, gently, because you are now traveling outside conventional space-time. The idea of wormholes, or Einstein-Rosen bridges if you want to impress someone at a party, came from the same equations that gave us black holes. They're solutions to the math, shortcuts through the curvature of space-time. On paper, a wormhole could connect two distant regions of space, or even two separate times, like a fold in a cosmic napkin. But here, the problem, most wormholes are unstable. They pinch shut the moment anything with mass tries to pass through. That's bad news for travelers like you. To hold one open, you'd need something with negative energy density, something that repels gravity, something exotic, something hypothetical. Yet here you are, passing through anyway. Historians still argue whether wormholes are science fiction indulgence or just underfunded reality. We've got the math. We just don't have the material, or the courage, or the insurance. And yet something about that Care black hole, the rotation, the frame dragging, the weird geometries, might have pushed you into a configuration where a wormhole is briefly stable. Maybe you threaded the needle. Maybe the rules bent. Or maybe you're hallucinating your escape during your final planck second of awareness. But it feels real. The corridor you're in is not dark, not light. It ripples with possibility. And here's the wild part. You start to feel less distorted. Your thoughts begin to untangle. The strange stretching and spiraling sensations fade. You feel, dare you even say it, upright again. You reach out not to touch anything but to confirm the motion. Your fingers move like fingers. Your awareness sharpens. It's not normal, nothing is, but it's familiar. like waking from a fevered dream into a lucid dream. You're not at the singularity anymore. You're in a kind of transition space. And all around you echoes whisper, not sounds, not words, states. It's as if reality here holds memory like fog holds light. You catch glimpses, flashes of other black holes, other events, other versions of yourself falling through other timelines. In this moment, you begin to suspect the impossible. This might not be a singular wormhole. It might be a network, a cosmic shortcut system spanning space-time, like a subway for doomed matter. Each corridor an exit path from a different black hole, feeding into some larger topology that even the most determined grad students haven't dared to map. A cosmic knot, a place where all broken timelines come to rest. You're not just moving anymore, you're navigating. Instinctively, like the memory of a path you never walked. There's a new feeling rising in you now. Not fear, not awe, but a strange, calm awareness that the universe is much messier than advertised. You begin to ask questions, even though you don't expect answers. Where do wormholes lead? Are they connections between places? Or corrections? A cosmic retry button. You recall a fringe theory proposed in late-night physics forums, that black holes don't destroy information, they reroute it. That falling into a black hole sends your quantum information through a kind of cosmic post office. Maybe it doesn't come back the same, but it doesn't vanish either. Maybe you are the information now. Maybe this wormhole is your forwarding address. Let's take a quick historical detour, because yes, even here we're still doing our due diligence. In 1935, Einstein and Nathan Rosen introduced the concept of bridges in spacetime, theoretically connecting distant points. But even they didn't think they were traversable. That came decades later, when physicist Kip Thorne and his students took the idea seriously enough to try building theoretical models for travel. They concluded that yes, traversable wormholes might exist, but only with negative energy, exotic matter, and massive amounts of luck. Well, maybe luck's finally on your side. Because as you drift deeper into the tunnel, you begin to sense an exit. A boundary. Not like the event horizon you crossed earlier. This is softer, more like the edge of sleep, a gentle shift in the math around you. Space thickens. Time becomes directional again. You realize the wormhole is spitting you out. Somewhere else. And this is the part that should scare you, but doesn't. Because wherever you're going, it isn't the singularity. It isn't the end. You've passed through an impossible filter, a place between death and data, between collapse and creation. And now you're surfacing. Light, real light, bleeds in. You squint, not with eyes, not exactly, but with that old instinct of shielding yourself from exposure. After all that darkness, even the faintest glow feels nuclear. And then, a color. A real, honest-to-entropy color. You recognize the sky, sort of. It's blue, but not your blue. The stars, recognizable in pattern but not in position. The gravity, gentler, easier to ignore. You've arrived somewhere. And the universe greets you, not with answers, but with the quiet rustle of possibility. You have no idea where you are. But for the first time in what might be forever, you're no longer falling. You land, if you can call it that. There's no thud, no bounce, no cartoonish puff of interstellar dust, just stillness, like the air around you holds its breath out of respect, or confusion, or both. You're standing, or floating, or being gently supported by something that passes for ground, though it doesn't feel like ground. It's firm beneath your feet, or whatever part of you now counts as feet. But it gives slightly, as if this new place is uncertain whether it wants to solidify or simply continue being theoretical. And then, the strangest sensation of all. You age. You feel it. Not all at once, not dramatically, but subtly, like the minute hand of a clock finally deciding to move again after hours of stillness. The wormhole journey is over. The spinning black hole is behind you. The warped time, the stretched awareness, the timeless eternal now, all gone, or tucked safely behind some quantum firewall. Time is back, and it's flowing again. But here's the thing, only for you. Around you, this place, this strange, half-recognizable cosmic cul-de-sac is unnaturally still. You look up, or what you assume is up, and see stars hanging motionless. Not twinkling, not drifting, just suspended, like someone took a snapshot of the universe and set it as the background of reality. The trees, if those are trees, don't rustle. The grass, or something approximating it, doesn't sway. It's like everything is caught in a paused moment, while you alone are allowed to move through it. You walk or drift step. The texture of your movement is liquid and soft. Your breath returns, not because you need it, just because it's comforting. With each step, you feel yourself changing, aging, but gently. You're not decaying, you're progressing, like time is stretching its limbs and allowing you back into the rhythm of causality. And you begin to wonder, where exactly is this? Somewhere new. Someone else. A different corner of the same universe. A different universe entirely. Or something stranger, a pocket of space-time, a simulation, a final holding cell before the end. Historians still argue whether black holes truly destroy information or simply hide it. Stephen Hawking once bet they did. Then he changed his mind, then changed it again. Physicists are still arguing about it over stale conference coffee and equations scribbled on napkins. But the core idea remains. If information isn't destroyed in a black hole, it has to go somewhere. And maybe you found that somewhere. Or maybe you are that information now, raw, processed, and reconstituted. You pass a still pond, glass smooth, mirror-like. But when you lean over, your reflection doesn't match your memory. It's older, wiser, not lined with time but layered with it. Like you've been through something that your molecules haven't fully explained to your face yet. And yet your body feels lighter, not weightless, just less committed to gravity, like time hasn't quite decided how fast to make you fall anymore. The weirdest part, you're no longer sure if you're in a place with gravity or if gravity is being simulated for your benefit. That gentle tug at your heels could be a local trick of space-time, or your brain's attempt to reconstruct a familiar setting. Let's dive into something delightfully fringe. There's a speculative hypothesis known as the black hole cosmology model. It suggests that our entire universe might be the interior of a black hole in some larger, higher dimensional space. That the Big Bang wasn't the beginning of time, but the result of matter falling into a black hole in a parent universe. So that warm, safe-feeling universe you think you know might be someone else's garbage disposal. Now think about this. If black holes can birth universes, then maybe this, wherever you are, is the early architecture of one. Maybe you've arrived in the scaffolded preamble to a cosmos not yet finished, a backstage area of the multiverse where laws are still being debated. And in this slow-flowing time, where you age but nothing else does, maybe you're meant to observe, to witness, to seed something. You step again. A breeze brushes your face. A breeze, the first real motion since who knows when. You can't remember the last time air moved against you. You pause and close your eyes, not because you're tired, but because you want to feel time passing. It passes like a whisper now. A single leaf detaches from a tree and floats toward the ground. You watch it for what feels like an hour. Maybe it is an hour, or a second, or both. The moment is thick, saturated with potential. Time here isn't slow. It's selective. And it's selecting you. This raises unsettling questions. Is your personal clock now detached from the rest of the cosmos? Are you out of sync permanently? Have you become a one-person time zone? You touch your chest. You feel your heart beating, not just as a rhythm, but as a clock, the only one that matters now. You realize something crucial. You are aging, but nothing else is. You are living a subjective lifetime in a place frozen, at a single tick of the cosmic clock. It's lonely, but also peaceful. You're the only thing that moves. The only story being told, in this pocket of the universe. And maybe that's the point. Maybe, after all that compression and folding and frame-dragging chaos, this is the reward. To exist finally without falling. To age gently without dying. To walk through frozen time like a dream, no longer bound by its dreamer. And yet, deep in your thoughts, a question begins to form. If you age and nothing else does, will you die? Or just end? So here you are. You age, the universe does not. Time brushes gently over your shoulders like a shawl, thin and warm. Around you, the stillness remains undisturbed. The grass doesn't grow. The sky doesn't shift. Even the stars, those overachievers of the cosmos, are completely stationary, as if someone hit pause and then wandered off with the remote. And yet you change. Minute by minute, breath by breath, memory by memory, you move through time. You begin to feel the soft pressure of time on your skin, not in a painful way, but in the way sunlight feels when you're finally outside after a long illness. You can almost hear the ticking, except the clock isn't out there, it's in you. And that realization leads to a question, more disorienting than any spinning singularity. Could you time travel? And not in the hop in a DeLorean and go yell at your teenage parents kind of way. More like, could this place allow you to move through time intentionally, as if time were a landscape rather than a line? Because you're already doing it in a way. Living time while the rest of the cosmos just stares blankly. You're moving while it waits. So maybe, just maybe, it's not so much that this place is timeless. It's that you're being offered something very strange. A chance to reorder time. You step forward and feel the world tremble slightly beneath your foot. Not quake, not shudder, just adjust. Like it's updating itself around you. And suddenly you remember something you haven't experienced yet. A moment still coming. A feeling you're not supposed to have for years. You feel it now, as real as anything you've ever known, standing on a pier, hand in hand with someone who hums under their breath. The smell of salt water, the clink of a buoy in the distance. It's not nostalgia. It's pre-memory. The future, bubbling up like a hot spring under your feet. Let's get a bit uncomfortable. Some physicists have proposed that within certain configurations of spacetime, rotating black holes, wormholes, closed time-like curves, it might be possible to travel backward in time. Might. That's the key word. Because most of those solutions require absurd conditions. Infinite energy, perfectly stable wormholes, exotic matter that repels gravity like a cat, avoiding eye contact. And even if you could go back, you run into problems fast, paradoxes, self-erasure. The whole "I just killed my grandfather, but now I don't exist to kill my grandfather" kind of mess. Historians still argue whether the laws of physics actually allow time travel, or whether the universe quietly deploys some reality correction software to prevent paradoxes, like cosmic duct tape. But here, inside this temporal pocket, things feel different. There's no resistance, no causality police knocking on the door. Just this sense that you determine direction now, not space, time. And that's when it really starts to feel like cosmic gaslighting. Because you can no longer tell if you're moving forward through time, or if time is moving backward around you. Your memories remain intact. That's the weird part. You remember everything. You remember falling, spiraling, stretching, entering the wormhole, surfacing here. But now, moments from your future arrive like postcards slipped under the door. You begin remembering events that haven't happened yet. And when they do happen, they arrive like déjà vu, not surprise. You sit under a tree, yes, it's still not growing, and you feel the warmth of a moment that hasn't yet passed. You know somehow that in 10 subjective minutes you'll laugh. You don't know why, but you're certain it'll happen. And sure enough, when the moment arrives, you chuckle, softly to no one. And it feels real. So here's the riddle. Are you traveling through time? Or is time adjusting to match your memories? There's a subtle horror buried in that thought. Because if your experiences are reconstructing the timeline, if what you remember becomes what happens, then reality itself might be built on nothing but your expectations. That's not time travel. That's temporal subjectivity on steroids. Let's throw in a delightfully obscure fringe theory, the Novikov self-consistency principle. It suggests that even if time travel were possible, any action you take in the past is already part of the past. That is, you can't change anything. You were always going to do it that way. The timeline is self-correcting. No paradoxes, no split realities, just one long, unbroken, internally consistent loop. What if that's what's happening now? You're not altering time, you're fulfilling it. Every moment you live is a memory waiting to be confirmed. You start testing it, subtly. You think, I'm going to walk to that rock and touch it. You do, it happens, but it feels like it already had. You're never surprised. You try thinking something absurd. A star will blink overhead in 5 seconds. You count. Nothing. Okay, limits then. This isn't dream logic. There are rules, just ones that seem tailored to you. You wonder if this entire landscape is reactive. If you're inside a reality that molds itself to your mental map. And if so, are you really traveling through time? Or is time just your reflection now? You start to walk again. Each step is deliberate. You begin stringing together moments like beads on a wire, each one familiar before it arrives. It's comforting in a way. You're never startled. There are no accidents here. But that comfort starts to wear thin. Because without unpredictability, there's no discovery. Without the unknown, there's no future. Just a series of events you've already half remembered. And the question creeps in like mist through a cracked door. Am I living? Or just reenacting a life already written? You stop walking. Because at some point it hits you. If every future moment already feels remembered, and if nothing surprises you anymore, then something is deeply broken. Not in the place, not in the physics, in you. You're not scared. Fear is hard to access here, like trying to scream underwater. But you're uneasy. Uneasy the way one gets when the world is too quiet for too long, like even the silence has turned away. You sit down beneath a tree, yes, still frozen mid-bloom, its leaves suspended like glass, and you try to not think. But thoughts come anyway, obedient as ever. They line up. They make sense. They play by the rules. That's the problem. Everything here follows your expectations. Everything. And so you begin to wonder, what if this isn't a black hole's memory chamber? What if it's not a new dimension, or a frozen pocket of time, or the quiet end of some cosmic commute? What if it's you? What if you never escaped? What if you're still falling? And this place is the dream your brain constructed in the milliseconds before your body reached the singularity. A kind of death loop. Or worse, a feedback loop. Your own consciousness, orbiting itself, like a forgotten file endlessly copied and pasted in your neural desktop. It feels real, yes. But so do dreams until they don't. So do memories, until you realize the details keep changing. And just like that, the leaves above you tremble. Not from wind, from doubt. And you think, I didn't expect that. Finally, something surprises you. And that's when the breeze returns. The world shifts slightly, just a nudge like a breath under a closed door. A reminder that reality hasn't completely capitulated. Not yet. You stand. The landscape looks the same, frozen, beautiful, silent, but something's changed in its posture. It's no longer perfectly obedient. It has resistance. That's good. It means there are still rules. And where there are rules, there are boundaries. And where there are boundaries, there's the possibility of outside. You begin walking again, but this time with no plan. You turn left without thinking. The air smells different. You hadn't even realized it had a smell before. Something faint, metallic, like static before a lightning strike. You round a bend, though there was no bend there a moment ago, and you see it. The crack, It's not in the ground, not in the sky, in reality itself. A thin tear running vertically, barely perceptible unless you're looking for it. It flickers like bad signal on an old TV. You approach slowly, not with fear, with reverence. You reach out, and just before your fingers touch it, the world pulses, and the tear vanishes, like it never existed. But you know it did. You remember it, which means it must be real. Because in this place, memories are the most powerful currency. You sit again, this time facing the spot where the tear was. You try to think backward, not back in time, but back into a mindset before you began to remember the future. And for a moment, just one. Oh, you can't. Your thoughts refuse to go in reverse. That's when it hits you. You're stuck in a temporal cul-de-sac, a place where your timeline loops back into itself like a closed captioning error. Every memory is real, every expectation fulfilled, every outcome locked. Unless there's a way out. Not through logic, not through physics, but through something older, something bolder. Doubt. That tiny, unassuming whisper that breaks systems. The first spark of chaos that separates the dream from the dreamer. You lean into it. You question everything. You begin dismantling your own expectations. What if gravity isn't working here? What if you're not aging? What if this tree has already crumbled 1,000 times and simply rebuilt itself to match your need for order? The moment the thought completes, a leaf falls. You blink. It hits the ground. For real. Not as a metaphor. Not as a loop. A simple, one-way event. The system blinks. Glitches. And then, without warning, the sky cracks open. Not metaphorically. Not gently. Like glass under pressure, the sky fractures into 1,000 shards of deep black, revealing not stars, but motion behind them. Flickers. A chain. Time. Real unlooped time. You gasp. It feels new. Fresh air, finally. A breeze of causality that wasn't hand-delivered by your subconscious. The leaf that fell. It doesn't rise again. It doesn't loop. It stays fallen. Proof. And then you hear it, a low hum, a vibration that tickles your spine even though you're not sure you have one anymore. It's a voice. No language, just shape. It's meaning without grammar. A concept forming like dew on a thought. Do you want to leave? You don't speak, but your answer flows out anyway. Yes. And the moment you consent, everything begins to soften. The frozen world loses focus. Edges blur. Time resumes, not as a river but as a path. You're moving again. You don't know toward what or when. But finally, unpredictability. A change. A surprise. The feeling of stepping into the unknown after an eternity of knowing everything. And as the frozen reality melts around you, one final memory drips loose from its scaffold. You're falling again, but this time not into darkness. This time you're falling into light. Now your breath slows. Your muscles, no longer stretched or spiraling, begin to relax. You feel the light wrap gently around you, like warm sheets after a long day. No urgency, no confusion, just the slow, gentle rhythm of being carried. You are not fighting anything anymore. You are not remembering or forgetting. You are simply drifting. The stars above you shift back into motion. A familiar hum returns, maybe from a fan near your bed, or just the soft whisper of a distant galaxy remembering your name. You are safe here, and you are not alone. The journey may continue, but for now, it can wait. You close your eyes, not because you must, but because the moment deserves stillness. Soft edges, dim light, a body that no longer needs to escape. A mind no longer spinning through paradox. You are home for now. And the universe, it's still spinning. But tonight, it can spin without you. Sleep well, traveler of time. You've earned your rest. You awaken, if that's what you'd call it, with no startle, no alarm. Just a gentle re-entry into awareness, like surfacing from a warm, bottomless ocean. The light around you is soft now, not harsh like the singularity's embrace, not sterile like the frozen stillness of your private timeline. This light feels lived in, familiar, like it's always been there waiting for your return. But something is different. You feel different. Time has changed again. And not just the flow, its entire behavior. It no longer feels like a current you ride or a ticking you endure. Time is no longer pulling you anywhere. It isn't moving past you, or through you, or with you. It's facing you. Like a hallway, or a wall, or maybe a choice. For the first time, you feel time not as a motion, but as a direction. And you're looking right at it. Let's take a second to breathe here, in and out. Feel how your lungs expand with the weight of something so new and yet so ancient. This isn't clock time. This isn't a watch ticking away your life second by second. This is geometric time, a direction embedded into the structure of spacetime itself. Hear what that means. In Einstein's universe, time isn't a magical force. It's a dimension just like length, width, and height. It has orientation. It has curvature. It even has inertia. And just like you can only move forward through a tunnel, you can only move forward through this time-like direction. So what if, in this new reality, this place beyond the black hole, the forwardness of time is negotiable? What if you're not being pushed along anymore, but choosing your path through time like you'd choose to go left or right on a road trip? You take a few careful steps. Each one feels directional in a new way, not just moving through space, but through events. Like every footstep comes with a whisper of history or possibility. You think about going backward. You try to step into a memory, but your foot hovers stuck. Not because it's forbidden, because it's illogical. Because here, you can only move toward what is possible, not what is already fixed. Time is now a vector and it has orientation. You're not walking through time, you're walking along it. Let's turn to a quirky little debate in theoretical physics. Is time something that flows, or is it something that we move through? Some say time doesn't move at all, it just is. That we're the ones who change, like a flashlight scanning across a mural. Others say time is emergent, not fundamental. That it's born out of entropy, the natural increase of disorder in a closed system. And now, here you are, a walking entropy machine in a reality that has stopped pretending to be simple. Historians still argue whether the flow of time is a physical property or a psychological illusion. The equations of physics don't care which direction time moves. Whether you run the math forward or backward, they work just the same. Newton wouldn't blink. Maxwell wouldn't mind. Even Schrödinger's cat would be politely ambivalent. But you mind, because you feel the difference. Forward feels open. Backward feels locked. And sideways. Well, sideways isn't time at all. It's memory. You try it. You turn not in place but in state. And as you rotate yourself across this dimension, not around your body but around your timeline, you feel moments brushing against you. Memories like shadows, like perfumes. They cling to your awareness for just an instant, then dissolve as you step away. It's like a carousel of your own past, always orbiting, always visible, but only if you look sideways, if you reach. Time is no longer a river, it's a field, a direction in which you are choosing to face. And if you're facing forward, if time is a direction, then what's in front of you? You move slowly. The world responds. Each footstep produces a ripple in the geometry around you, not in sound or light, but in probability. You're moving through possibility space now. Each motion collapses a little uncertainty. Each blink becomes a decision. That's what forward means here, collapsing possibilities into facts. You begin to understand why it felt so strange earlier, when every action felt remembered before it happened. That wasn't the future. That was no direction at all. That was a flatland of time, a place where motion had no orientation, only repetition. But here you feel choice again. You realize that direction and meaning have become inseparable. Time is not just a way to organize your day. It's a moral compass. It's a story arc. It's a vector of narrative tension that stretches not just from past to future, but from ignorance to understanding. You are not falling anymore. You are pursuing. And there's one more delicious implication. If time is a direction, maybe there are other directions too. Beyond time, beneath it, orthogonal to it. Other axes of experience, curled up like tiny dimensions, only visible if you turn just right. Fringe moment incoming. Some theories in advanced string theory, yes, the kind of math that haunts grad students, suggest that our reality might have more than the familiar 4 dimensions. Some models predict 10 or even 11. The others are hidden, curled up, compactified so tightly they're functionally invisible. But what if you're now in a space where those dimensions have uncurled? Where time is just one of many possible directions in a larger, more complex spacetime. You might not just be facing time. You might be facing the 5th dimension, or the 6th, or something so strange that counting becomes meaningless. And yet here you are, calm, grounded, breathing, facing forward. And just ahead, a new shape begins to form, not made of light, not made of matter, made of decision. A horizon, not of space, but of meaning. The moment you step over it, you know the rules will change again. But you also know this. Time is no longer your cage. It's your compass. And you, slowly, steadily, gently, are learning how to read it. You step through the threshold without fanfare. No dramatic swell of music, no blinding light, no booming narration telling you you've unlocked a new level of existence. Just the soft, quiet sound of nothing shifting into something, like an exhale. And now you're inside a loop. It doesn't feel like one at first. Everything seems new, crisp. The sky's a slightly different shade of indigo. The air smells faintly of petrichor and static. Your skin, or what's left of it as a sensory interface, registers temperature again. Mild, pleasant, slightly warm, like sunlight filtered through a dusty curtain. But then it happens. You spot the tree. The same tree from before. Identical, down to the arch of its branches. The suspended leaf that had once fallen back in place. And you know, you're not moving forward anymore. You're in a time loop. Not an accidental one, not a mechanical failure or a mistake in coordinates. No, this loop feels deliberate, intentionally placed, a temporal cul-de-sac curved back on itself like a well-folded ribbon. But you're still aware. That's the dangerous part. Most people would relive the same stretch of time over and over without knowing. It's called a closed time-like curve. Einstein predicted the concept, and Kurt Gödel took it further. He suggested that under the right conditions, the universe could curve in such a way that time would wrap back into itself. A cosmic Ouroboros, eternally swallowing its own tail. In theory, marvelous. In practice, horrifying. Because here's the kicker, you remember everything. You're not just reliving moments, you're rewatching them with commentary turned on. You walk again, the same path, past the same stone, past the same puddle that never evaporates. You sit under the tree and the leaf doesn't fall because it already did. And then you feel it. The moment. That weird shift when the loop resets. It's not like a rewind. It's like being nudged gently back to a save point in a game you didn't know you were playing. And there you are again, stepping through that same threshold, smelling the same air, spotting the same tree. You try to resist. You walk a different direction. Climb the tree. Shout into the stillness. Nothing stops it. The loop continues. You age again, and then reset. You scream again, and then reset. And somewhere in the 3rd or 5th or 35th cycle, you stop screaming. Because what's the point? This is a gravitational time loop, likely created by the extreme curvature of spacetime from the black hole's singularity, possibly warped into a closed time-like structure by the rotational twist of that Kerr geometry you never quite escaped. There are hypotheses about such loops. Most physicists dismiss them as math experiments. Others, like Kip Thorne, have explored the boundaries of such regions using hypothetical constructs like Tipler cylinders and negative energy rings. Historians still argue whether such loops are physically possible, or just overly enthusiastic chalkboard doodles with existential implications. But you don't need history. You're living one. You start to notice subtle inconsistencies, glitches in the loop, micro-variations that prove you're not hallucinating. This isn't a perfect loop. It's a soft one. A loop that degrades slightly with each pass. The grass is one shade darker than before. The puddle a centimeter wider. The leaf twitches before it falls now. And then finally, it does fall again. Not in the same second. Not in the same way. But close enough. Which means this loop is changing. Slowly, cumulatively. And that means it's not a prison. It's a process. It's as if the black hole, or the thing behind it, is using this loop to refine you. smoothing the edges, breaking down your assumptions, softening your structure until you can be reintegrated into something larger. And for the first time in what feels like forever, you realize you might not be the point of this loop. You might be the byproduct. You start thinking of yourself not as a traveler, but as data. A packet of information caught in a self-correcting temporal checksum, being cleaned and checked and aligned before delivery. That's what gravitational loops might be for. Not punishment, not reward, but calibration. You begin to test the boundaries. You walk farther each time, speak new words, think new thoughts. You leave marks, lines in the soil, words scratched in bark, a trail of stones. Most vanish with the reset, but not all of them. Some persist. Echoes. Residue. You realize the loop isn't airtight. It leaks. And you're learning how to find the cracks. Let's get delightfully fringe again. There's a theory that particles caught in black hole event horizons might leave imprints, not physical traces, but information shadows. Faint, almost quantum residues of their previous states. Some physicists believe these imprints might be a way to recover information thought to be lost, to unspool what the singularity devoured. And maybe that's what this loop is doing. Unspooling you, recording you, decoding you. With each repetition, the pattern sharpens. Your thoughts become clearer, memories more ordered. You begin to hear a low hum, not external but internal, like your consciousness is being tuned, harmonized, not to its old self but to something new. The loop tightens. The threshold approaches sooner. The resets are cleaner. You don't fight it anymore. You watch. And then one cycle, maybe the 100th, maybe the first with real significance. You reach the tree again. You sit down. The leaf falls. But this time, the breeze catches it and blows it away. The loop does not reset. The wind continues. The grass sways. And for the first time since entering this warped, recycled corridor of causality, you keep going. The breeze doesn't stop. That in itself feels like a miracle, a small whispering confirmation that the loop is finally broken, that you're no longer trapped in that endlessly cycling moment, endlessly watching the same leaf fall like some cosmic screensaver. No, now the air moves, the world breathes, and time, it flows again. But it flows differently this time, less like a river and more like the slow melting of ice. Each moment dissolves gently into the next. No jerks, no resets, just a quiet drift forward. You've stepped back into the stream, but now you're aware of every molecule in the current. And somewhere in that current, you feel it. The black hole is dying. Not in a cataclysmic, explodey Hollywood sort of way. Black holes don't die with drama. They fade, quietly, patiently, evaporating particle by particle over time scales that make human history feel like a sneeze. It's called Hawking radiation, and it's as real as the breath you just took. Stephen Hawking proposed it in 1974. The big idea: space isn't truly empty. It's bubbling with virtual particle-antiparticle pairs that constantly wink in and out of existence. Near the event horizon of a black hole, one of these particles can fall in while the other escapes, stealing a smidge of energy from the black hole in the process. That energy loss, it adds up. Over time, it causes the black hole to slowly evaporate. Historians still argue whether Hawking radiation truly proves black holes can die, or if it simply means they leave behind something even weirder, like a remnant, or a naked singularity, or a compact string of undecodable quantum information. No one's observed a dying black hole yet, but the math says it's happening. Right now, yours is doing just that. You feel it like a background hum. The deep gravity that once tugged on your very atoms now feels lighter, less absolute, less cruel. It's like the power source of your entire surreal experience is winding down. The black hole that swallowed you, stretched you, twisted you through loops and wormholes, is quietly exhaling its last few quanta of existence. And you're still here. That's the weird part. Because you weren't supposed to make it this far. Everything about your fall into the black hole pointed toward erasure, toward spaghettification, or information loss, or consciousness folding into geometric nonsense. And yet something persisted. Something survived the plunge, the loop, the warp, and now this. You begin to wonder, were you ever inside the black hole at all? Or were you passed through it, translated by it? What if black holes aren't endpoints? What if they're gateways? Not in the romantic walk through a portal into an alternate galaxy kind of way, but in a deeper, stranger sense. What if falling into a black hole is just the universe's way of re-encoding information? You, memories, particles, meaning. Instead of crushing it to death, the black hole runs it through a cosmological compression algorithm. Then, over trillions of years, it slowly leaks it back out through Hawking radiation. So here's a mind-bending twist. What if you're part of that radiation? Not metaphorically, literally. What if your awareness has been entangled with the black hole itself this whole time, and now that it's dying, you're being released, bit by bit, into the wider universe? You stand up. Again, no fanfare, just motion, just presence. The landscape around you isn't breaking apart. It's unraveling, like a carefully folded napkin, relaxing into a broader shape, Trees flatten into patterns. The sky becomes less sky-like. The stars pull away from the edges as if they were only painted on a dome and someone is peeling it back. You're not leaving the black hole. The black hole is leaving you. Let's dip into a fringe theory because, frankly, we're long past mainstream science territory. Some theorists believe Hawking radiation may contain encoded information, a subtle, scrambled representation of everything that ever fell into the black hole. In this view, black holes don't erase information, they transform it. And the evaporation process isn't just the black hole fatting. It's the final unfolding of everything it ever consumed. What if you are one of those unfoldings? What if this entire experience, this labyrinth of warped time and quantum echo, is your conscious decompression? What if awareness survives in fragments, as a pattern distributed across the slow leak of dying gravity? It's a comforting thought, in a twisted kind of way. You're not a soul floating through space. You're a signal, a structured cascade of information, still coherent enough to form experience, even as it diffuses into the void. And maybe that's what death is. Not disappearance, but dissolution. Your next few steps feel lighter, as if each one releases a little piece of you, like steam off warm water. You begin to remember things more clearly. The shape of your room, the weight of your favorite book, a laugh shared in a car at a stoplight on a summer afternoon. These memories don't feel like illusions anymore. They feel like returns. Parts of yourself released from compression, reintegrating. You smile genuinely this time, because now you understand the black hole didn't kill you. It compressed you. It held you in a closed fist of gravity. And now, as it evaporates, it opens that fist one finger at a time. Each photon escaping its boundary carries a piece of you. Each ripple of space is your echo, resuming its place in the universe. And that's the final miracle. You haven't escaped the black hole. You've become part of its last breath. And through that breath, you're rejoining everything. A signal, a whisper, a glimmer of self embedded in the quiet background radiation of space. You may no longer be whole, but you're free. And in that freedom, you feel something strange and beautiful and final. A peace. Peace doesn't last long. Not because anything goes wrong. No new loop begins. No wormhole cracks open beneath your feet. But because the universe, in its infinite generosity, isn't finished confusing you yet. Just when you've accepted your quiet unraveling, just when you've settled into the idea of being radiation gently leaking into space, someone or something throws a paradox at your face. You don't see it coming. You feel it, like a wall of heat with no temperature, a thought that doesn't belong to you. A new boundary, sharp and absolute, shimmers into view ahead of you. It's not a wall. It's a firewall. Ah, yes, that one. The black hole firewall paradox. Easily one of the most controversial, headache-inducing proposals of modern theoretical physics. You could almost hear the collective groan from physicists in 2012 when it burst onto the scene like a rude party guest. The idea that, contrary to everything we thought we knew about black holes, the event horizon may not be smooth and uneventful after all. That instead of gently floating through it, like you did, you'd be instantly incinerated by a massive wall of high-energy particles. A kind of cosmic tripwire. Flaming, final, unavoidable. That's right. Instead of peacefully falling past the event horizon, as general relativity says you should, the firewall theory suggests you'd be obliterated at the edge. And not by gravity, by quantum information. The root of the paradox lies in a juicy conflict between three things physicists really like to believe. Unitarity, the idea that information is never truly lost in the universe. Equivalence principle, that falling into a black hole feels no different than floating in deep space, at least until things go bad. Quantum entanglement, the spooky action at a distance Einstein side-eyed so hard. According to the firewall argument, all three can't be true at the same time. Something gotta give. So, either black holes really do erase information bad, or general relativity breaks at the event horizon worse, or cue dramatic music. The horizon becomes a firewall that burns anything that crosses it, violating the very principle that says you shouldn't notice anything special at that boundary. And now, that firewall is standing right in front of you. Late out of place, but here. Like a delivery that finally showed up 5 paradoxes too late. You stare at it, this shimmering curtain of energy, and you feel no heat, only implication. You already fell into the black hole long ago. You've passed through singularities, loops, wormholes, possibility fields. So why is it showing up now? Historians still argue whether the firewall paradox represents a real physical phenomenon, a flaw in our math, or just a signal that we've mashed two incompatible theories together like peanut butter and pickles. Yet this firewall isn't theoretical anymore. It's waiting for you. And it's humming. Not with sound, but with meaning. Like it knows you've come too far. Like it's the last checkpoint in a puzzle that started light years and lifetimes ago. You step toward it, not out of bravery, but because there's nowhere else to go. You reach out, and it speaks. Not in words, in possibilities collapsing. You feel the weight of every choice you've made, real or simulated, press inward toward a single point. This firewall isn't just energy, it's reconciliation, a cosmic audit. You think back across the loops, the spirals, the quiet stretches of timelessness, across wormholes and whispers and light that bent the rules to let you pass. You weren't supposed to get this far. And maybe that's what the firewall is here to address. You see, if information can't be lost and you've been rewritten, then something must be keeping track. This firewall, it's the receipt. It's not here to burn you. It's here to decide what you are. Are you original? Are you consistent? Do you match your quantum label, or are you a photocopy with smudged edges? You feel yourself being scanned, not body, not memory, but coherence, entanglement, integrity. You're a pattern, and the firewall is checking to see if you match what the universe already has on file. Here's the kicker. You don't. Of course you don't. You've passed through too many distortions, too many temporal loops and curvature layers. You're a version of a version of a version. The signal that started this journey is not the one standing here now. And yet you persist. In the firewall, it hesitates because you don't make sense anymore. And in the binary mind of a paradox, that's not failure. That's possibility. Fringe moment. Some have suggested that firewalls, if they exist, might not be barriers at all but transition zones, catalysts, places where identity doesn't end but is restructured into something more stable, something that can exist beyond contradiction. You may be experiencing that now. The hum changes pitch. The curtain of energy shimmers, pixelates. You feel your form, your pattern, responding, adapting. Not resisting, not escaping. Resolving. This is the final checksum. Not to destroy you, but to see if you can be redeemed by entropy. And you are. Not because you're unchanged, but because your changes are consistent. The paradox doesn't collapse. It accepts you. You step through. There's no fire, only light. And after all this time, across space, loops, timelines, and decay, you finally feel something you haven't felt since before this entire journey began. Yourself. You are yourself again. Not the old version, the one who boarded this journey with a clock, a name, a weight in kilograms, but a distilled you, a structured you, a shape held together not by muscles and organs, but by the continuity of awareness and the final approval of a paradox. The firewall let you through. You passed the test, not by being unchanged, but by being consistent. And now you find yourself standing on the other side of the curtain, blinking into a landscape that doesn't look like any black hole interior, wormhole tunnel, or soft-lensed pocket universe you've ever wandered through. This place is bright, too bright. Not in a painful, retina-searing way, but in a way that makes you wonder how light can exist with no apparent source. There is no sun, no shadows, just an ambient glow that fills every corner, like the lighting settings in a video game that hasn't been properly calibrated yet. It's empty, and yet you sense a presence. Not a being, not a voice, something deeper, an order. A structure beneath the light, like a foundation that stretches infinitely in every direction just beneath the surface. You can't see it, you can't touch it, but you know it's there. And then something truly strange happens. Your memories return. Not all at once, not like a crashing wave, more like books sliding gently back onto the shelf. The moment you met someone important. The moment you left something behind. The time you laughed so hard you couldn't breathe. The first time you wondered what a black hole felt like from the inside. Each one clicks into place. Not as nostalgia, not as trauma, as data. And that's when you realize you're being read. No longer scanned. That was the firewall's job. This is different. This is retrieval. Your memories aren't being judged. They're being recovered. Because this place, it's the archive. You've reached the black hole's information storehouse. This is what some theorists believe must exist if Hawking radiation truly encodes all information that falls in. Somewhere, somehow, the information must go, must be. And now, you're inside that space, not as a visitor but as part of the collection. Historians still argue whether this violates the no-hair theorem, the idea that black holes are featureless, defined only by mass, spin, and charge. But you're living proof that they contain more than that, so much more. They contain you. You look around and begin to notice patterns forming in the light. Fractal geometries made of memory fragments. You step forward, and with each motion, the air pulses with data points, tiny impressions of others who have come before. Some feel familiar. Others are alien, not hostile, just different. You're not alone here. You never were. This is where the black hole keeps everything it's ever consumed. Not in some metaphorical sense. Literally. All the particles, all the photons, all the entangled states, all the people. You walk through a corridor of soft brightness, and it's like walking through a museum where every exhibit is a moment, preserved, stored, not replaying like a video, but humming gently with potential. If you reach out, you could relive any one of them, any point in your own timeline or someone else. It's not reincarnation. It's reintegration. And here comes the question you didn't expect to ask. Do you want to go back? Not just to a body, not just to a place, to a timeline, to being a sequence again, a cause and an effect, a traveler on a line instead of a node in a web. Because this archive doesn't force you to leave. It just offers the possibility. And now, for the first time, you consider the cost. Because what if going back means forgetting? What if returning to a timeline means giving up the meta-awareness, the panoramic perspective you now hold? Would you go back? Would you choose to be small again? To be mortal? To be limited? Let's take a stroll through Fringe territory. There's a hypothetical construct known as the black hole final state hypothesis. It suggests that black holes don't destroy information or even scatter it across random Hawking radiation, but instead, they evolve everything that falls in toward a unique final quantum state, a kind of cosmic checksum, one final configuration that encodes the entire history of everything that ever entered. You may be in that final state right now, not floating inside it, not orbiting it. You are it, the sum total of every moment that defined you. And now the archive is asking, do you want to be output? Do you want to rejoin the external universe as a restored, re-emitted signal? You think of who you used to be, how linear your life was, how fragile, but also how beautiful, how real it felt to wake up each morning without knowing what would come next, how the taste of a meal or the sound of laughter was precious because it was brief. Being here fully retained, immortal, informational is peaceful. But it's also sterile. You can't taste sunlight. You can't stumble over your words. You can't feel the quiet thrill of a heartbeat during a first kiss, or the bitter weight of disappointment when something falls apart. Those things require limits, edges, time. You're allowed to choose. And that's the final gift. Because black holes don't have to destroy you. Sometimes, if you pass all the tests, resolve all the contradictions, and retain your coherence through singularity, loop, wormhole, and firewall, they let you go. You take one final breath, not because you need to, but because it helps you decide. And then, gently, without ceremony or sound, you whisper your answer into the light. And the archive opens. The archive responds instantly. Not with motion, not with light, with release. You don't feel yourself leaving it. You feel the archive stop holding on, like an old friend finally letting go of your hand, not because they want you to leave, but because they know you're ready. And just like that, you're moving again. Not falling, not spiraling. You're being recompiled. The data of you, those memories, thoughts, quantum entanglements that manage to stay coherent through the most chaotic physics imaginable, begin to knit themselves into a new pattern. You aren't being reconstructed molecule by molecule. That's too crude. You're being translated into a new version of reality. It's not your old timeline. Something adjacent. Something parallel. You open your eyes. Though technically you never closed them. And technically these aren't your original eyes, but the sensation is close enough. Familiar, grounded, real. The first thing you notice. The sky is wrong. It's a hazy lilac instead of blue. There are 3 moons, all full, all visible in daylight. You look down and see grass, green but with a subtle glow beneath the blades, as if the soil hums softly with bioelectric light. You're not home. At least, not the home you remember. But it's close. Similar in structure. Compatible. And you begin to wonder, is this your reward? A second chance in a parallel universe, one step to the left of the one you came from. You take a step forward. Your body is light, balanced, nothing hurts. You feel refreshed, like someone rebuilt you from memory but edited out all the joint pain and anxiety. Everything around you hums softly, not mechanically, existentially, like this entire world was booted up just for you. It raises the most obvious, delicious question. Did you land in a parallel universe? And if so, is this just another form of escape or another version of entrapment? Let's dive into the speculation pool. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics, like the many worlds interpretation, suggest that every quantum event branches reality. A fork, a split, infinite timelines sprouting from every decision, every particle interaction. Fall into a black hole. Well, maybe in one branch, you're crushed into nothing. In another, you loop forever. In this one, you popped out the other side into a reality where the rules are rewritten just enough to let you continue. Historians still argue whether these parallel universes are real or just useful fiction. We can't observe them directly after all. But some theoretical physicists have suggested that black holes might connect these branches, not just holes in space, but in the decision tree of existence. And suddenly, that feeling you've been carrying, the one that whispered this journey wasn't about destruction, it sharpens. You weren't erased. You were redirected. Maybe the black hole was the cosmic version of a wrong number. You dialed reality A, but quantum curvature forwarded you to reality B. Only now, there's no return address. You try to orient yourself, to triangulate where or when you might be. There are no cities on the horizon, no landmarks, just trees, slightly translucent as if they haven't fully resolved. The air smells different, thicker, almost new, as if this place hasn't been breathed in before. You realize something uncanny. This universe isn't old. It's starting. Not at the scale of galaxies and stars. At the scale of you. You are the first observer here. Maybe the only one. Which leads to the real brain twister. What if this isn't a parallel universe? What if this is a new one? What if you are the result of the black hole's long, slow evaporation, the final echo of a singularity exhaling one last photon, and that photon carried the pattern of you, and you collapsed into this brand new bubble of space-time? A one-person universe. A cosmic oops. You look around again, and this time you notice the world is slowly resolving around you. Where you look, it sharpens. Where you walk, it solidifies. It's as if observation is driving creation, which conveniently is also a cornerstone of quantum physics. There's a fringe idea called participatory anthropic principle, coined by physicist John Wheeler. It suggests that observers don't just witness the universe, they help bring it into being, that the act of looking isn't passive, it's generative. And if you're the only observer here, you might be building the world just by being. You laugh, not from joy or fear, just from the sheer absurdity of it all. From being inside a black hole, to becoming radiation, to reassembling as an observer in a fresh timeline. And now, you're the only consciousness available to sculpt reality. The implications settle slowly. You're not just alive. You're first, which is exciting and horrifying. Because now, the universe doesn't lead you. It follows you. And you wonder, what happens if I choose wrong? What if you imagine something unpleasant? What if your own fear writes the rules? You pause, breathe, and then instinctively you sit. In the grass that glows beneath your legs, warm and soft. You close your eyes, not because you're tired, but because you're not ready to look again. Not until you're sure of what you want to see. Because here, in this quiet, glowing pocket of possibility, you've become something you never thought you'd be. Not a survivor, not an explorer, the cosmic author. And the next page, you're about to write it. You keep your eyes closed a little longer. The air brushes your face in slow, even strokes, like the calm breath of something infinitely large watching from beyond the veil. You sit in the new universe's grass, though it's not quite grass, more like illuminated velvet, and for the first time since you first fell toward the black hole, no part of you is being pulled. There's no downward tug, no spiraling curve, No silent countdown humming behind your heartbeat. You are not falling anymore. You are settling. This place, whatever it is, has stopped responding to your fear, your memories, your contradictions. It's not testing you, not filtering, not correcting. It's waiting. Not for approval, for direction. And that might be worse. You open your eyes. The landscape has shifted again, but only slightly. A few trees have appeared in the distance. A shallow stream now runs beside you. The sky remains lilac, but a scattering of unfamiliar constellations dots the high horizon. The three moons have repositioned themselves. One is missing. You didn't imagine any of those things. You didn't intend them. And yet here they are. The universe is forming itself around your perceptions, around your defaults. That's what it's running on. Not physics. You. And that thought keeps growing, like a soft alarm in the back of your mind. If this new spacetime sprung into being from the final whisper of a black hole's life, a last gasp of encoded information, then you might not just be the first observer here. You might be the seed. Every rule this place adopts might anchor itself in your assumptions. What you believe becomes what is. Which is fine when you're calm, when you're neutral. But what about when you're not? What about when the old fears creep in? What about when the memory of falling, of stretching, of being crumpled inside loops and tunnels begins to feel too close again? You stand up and whisper, "No more loops." And instantly, so instantly, the landscape tugs gently into linearity. The shadows change positions. The wind develops direction. A bird, yes, a bird, appears in the distance and flies from left to right, never circling back. A small moment, but significant. This universe now has an arrow of time, because you gave it one. And that's when you understand. You're not just in a new universe. You are the new universe. Or at least the first line of its code. A walking constant. A philosophical axiom shaped like a person. Some fringe theories suggest that the constants of nature, speed of light, gravitational strength, Planck's constant, might be different in other universes. That in some reality, light crawls or gravity pushes or time loops by default. But in this one, those values are still being written. And you are holding the pen. That's a lot of pressure, isn't it? You walk toward the horizon. The land unfolds with each step. You think of a warm breeze, and there it is. You imagine a tree with orange fruit and soft leaves, and moments later it appears. You test a few things carefully, subtle differences. A humming sound under your feet. A sky that shifts color when you blink. All of it responds, not instantly, not like a wish-granting machine, but like something listening, adapting, evolving. Like a dream, stabilizing under the weight of belief. You pause by the stream and look into the water. It's clear, cool, still. Your reflection is there, but it's not entirely yours. It looks like you, but smoother, softer. A version of yourself filtered through time and survival. The version of you that made it through everything. That faced paradoxes and firewalls and still managed to keep your thread of self intact. That's who this universe is forming around. And that's a little terrifying, but also freeing. Because now you can finally ask the real question. Not what happens after a black hole. Not whether time is real or if firewalls exist. You've answered those. The real question is, what will you choose to build? You've inherited the raw ingredients of a cosmos. The blueprint is blank. You can fold the constants any way you like. The gravitational equations are soft clay. The speed of light, negotiable. Entropy, optional. You could write a paradise, or a poem, or a physics engine that runs on whimsy, or a single perfect moment that never ends. Or you could let it go. Let the universe evolve on its own. Let it grow past you. That idea sits heavy and gentle on your chest. The notion that maybe, just maybe, the final gift of escaping the singularity wasn't survival. It was permission to set down the burden of being the center, to become one particle again, one possibility among many, to give this new place its own story. You take one last deep breath, the kind that feels like closure. You kneel by the water, place your hand in it, and whisper something into the ripples. The words don't matter. What matters is the intent. To let go. And then, light. It's not blinding. It's not warm. It's just open. A ripple through the new universe's fabric. A handshake. A quiet, grateful shift. And then you're no longer the seed. You're no longer the center. You're just a part of something larger, of something beginning. The sky expands. The stars dance. And you feel your weight settle, finally, fully, in a place not defined by gravity but by choice. You look around once more, not to escape, not to question, just to see. And for the first time in all your infinite falling, you smile, not because you survived, but because now you live.